In a world that glorifies hustle and perfection, we often find ourselves forcing life, pushing to control every outcome, meet every expectation, and fit into society's mold of success. This relentless pursuit leaves us exhausted, disconnected, and unfulfilled, chasing a version of life that feels out of reach. But what if the key to true happiness lies in letting go? When you stop forcing life, you open the door to inner peace, authentic self-discovery, and meaningful connections. This series explores the transformative power of living naturally, offering practical steps to recognize when you're forcing life, embrace imperfection, and flow with life's unpredictability. From cultivating gratitude to building supportive communities, these insights will guide you toward a lighter, more fulfilling existence. Join us on this journey to discover how letting go can change everything, allowing you to live as your truest self. In a world that moves at breakneck speed, it's easy to fall into the trap of trying to control every aspect of our lives. We plan meticulously set, ambitious goals and strive to meet expectations, both our own and those imposed by others. This relentless pursuit of control is what I call forcing life. It's the act of pushing ourselves to fit into a preconceived mold of success, happiness, or perfection, often at the expense of our well-being and authenticity. Forcing life is when we try to dictate every outcome, from the trajectory of our careers to the dynamics of our relationships, leaving little room for spontaneity, growth, or serendipity. It's the voice in our head that says, if I just try harder, everything will fall into place, even when the effort feels draining and unnatural. Consider a few common scenarios. You might stay up late, perfecting a work project, not because it excites you, but because you fear being seen as incompetent if it's less than flawless. Or perhaps you maintain a relationship, romantic, familial, or professional, that no longer feels right simply because letting go seems like admitting defeat. Maybe you're chasing a career path that society deems prestigious, even though it doesn't align with your passions, because deviating from the right path feels risky. These are all examples of forcing life, pushing against the natural flow of who you are and what feels authentic in an attempt to meet external or self-imposed standards. Forcing life often stems from a desire for certainty in an inherently uncertain world. We want to believe that if we work hard enough, plan carefully enough, or present ourselves perfectly enough, we can avoid failure, disappointment, or judgment. But life doesn't work that way. It's unpredictable, messy, and full of surprises, both good and bad. When we try to force outcomes, we're fighting against this natural unpredictability, and the result is often a sense of disconnection from ourselves and the world around us. The tendency to force life is deeply rooted in modern culture and psychology. We live in an era that glorifies hustle, productivity, and achievement. From a young age, we're taught that success comes from discipline, hard work, and unwavering focus. While these qualities can be valuable, they can also lead to a mindset that equates worth with output. We're bombarded with messages that we must always be striving, improving, and achieving, whether it's climbing the corporate ladder, curating a perfect social media presence, or maintaining an idealized lifestyle. Social media amplifies this pressure. Platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn showcase highlight reels of other people's lives, carefully curated images of success, happiness, and perfection. It's easy to compare ourselves to these polished snapshots and feel like we're falling short. This comparison culture fuels the urge to force life as we strive to match the impossible standards we see online. We might think If they can have it all, why can't I? But what we don't see are the struggles, insecurities and failures behind those curated posts. Psychologically forcing life is often linked to a need for control. Humans naturally crave predictability. It's a survival mechanism wired into our brains. When faced with uncertainty, we seek to impose order, whether through rigid schedules, detailed plans, or attempts to control others' perceptions of us. This need for control is heightened in a world that feels increasingly chaotic, with economic pressures, global challenges, and personal uncertainties looming large. Forcing life becomes a coping mechanism, a way to feel like we're in charge when so much feels out of our hands. The consequences of forcing life are profound and far-reaching, affecting our emotional, physical, and relational well-being. Emotionally, the constant pressure to control outcomes leads to stress, anxiety, and burnout. When we're always pushing ourselves to meet unrealistic standards, we leave little room for rest or joy. The mind becomes a battleground filled with self-criticism and worry. Am I doing enough? Am I good enough? Over time, this mental strain can erode our sense of self-worth, leaving us feeling empty or unfulfilled. Even when we achieve our goals, physically forcing life takes a toll as well. Chronic stress can manifest in the body as fatigue, insomnia, headaches, or even more serious health issues like high blood pressure or weakened immunity. When we're constantly in go mode, our bodies don't get the chance to rest and recover. The adrenaline and cortisol that fuel our efforts to control everything can over time wear us down, making it harder to function at our best. Forcing life also stifles creativity and personal growth. When we're fixated on a specific outcome, say a promotion, a perfect relationship, or a certain lifestyle, we close ourselves off to other possibilities. We become so focused on the destination that we miss the beauty of the journey. Opportunities for growth, learning, or unexpected joy pass us by because we're too busy trying to force things to go our way. This rigidity can also harm our relationships. When we try to control others, whether it's a partner, friend, or colleague, we create tension and distance. People sense when they're being pushed into a role that doesn't feel authentic, and it can lead to conflict or disconnection. Perhaps the most significant consequence of forcing life is the loss of spontaneity and joy. Life's magic often lies in the unplanned moments, the chance encounters, the unexpected discoveries, the quiet moments of contentment. When we're constantly forcing outcomes, we leave no room for these moments. We trade the richness of the present for an imagined future that may never arrive, or that when it does feels less satisfying than we expected. So why do we keep forcing life, even when it leaves us exhausted and unfulfilled? The answer lies in a combination of fear, external pressures, and internalized expectations. Fear is a powerful driver. We fear failure, not just in a practical sense, but in a deeply personal one. We worry that if we don't achieve certain milestones, we'll be seen as less worthy, less successful, or less lovable. This fear of not being enough pushes us to overwork, overcommit, and overextend ourselves, even when it feels wrong. We also fear judgment. Society places a high value on certain markers of success, wealth status, beauty, productivity, and we internalize these standards as measures of our worth. The thought of falling short can be paralyzing, so we force ourselves to keep up to prove we belong. This fear is compounded by the comparison culture mentioned earlier. When we see others succeeding or appearing to succeed, we feel pressure to match their achievements, even if it means sacrificing our own happiness. External pressures play a huge role as well. From childhood, we're conditioned to meet expectations, those of our parents, teachers, peers, or society at large. We're taught to follow a linear path, get good grades, go to a good school, land a good job, build a perfect life. Deviating from this path can feel like failure. So we force ourselves to stay on track even when it doesn't resonate with who we are. Social media and cultural norms reinforce this, creating a feedback loop of pressure and comparison. Internally, many of us struggle with perfectionism. We set impossibly high standards for ourselves, believing that anything less than perfection is unacceptable. This perfectionism often stems from a need for validation, whether from others or ourselves. We think, if I can just get this right, I'll finally feel good enough. But the bar keeps moving, and the validation we seek remains elusive. This cycle of striving and dissatisfaction keeps us trapped in the habit of forcing life. Understanding the concept of forcing life and recognizing its emotional, physical, and relational costs is the first step toward change. By acknowledging that we're pushing against the natural flow of life, we can begin to loosen our grip on control. This doesn't mean giving up on goals or ambitions. It means pursuing them in a way that feels authentic and aligned with who we are. It means trusting that life has a way of working itself out when we stop trying to force every piece into place. Forcing life is like swimming against a strong current. It's exhausting, and it often takes us further from where we want to be. When we learn to let go even a little, we allow ourselves to flow with the current, discovering new paths and possibilities along the way. In the next parts of this series, we'll explore the benefits of letting go, how to recognize when you're forcing life, and practical steps to live more naturally and authentically. For now, take a moment to reflect. Where in your life are you forcing things? What might happen if you let go just a little and trusted the process? When you stop forcing life, something remarkable happens. The weight of the world begins to lift from your shoulders. The relentless pressure to control every outcome, meet every expectation, and achieve every goal fades away, leaving behind a sense of freedom and possibility. Letting go of the need to force life doesn't mean abandoning ambition or responsibility. It means embracing a more natural, authentic way of living that aligns with who you are and what truly matters to you. The benefits of this shift are profound, touching every aspect of your existence, your mind, your sense of self, and the quality of your life. In this part, we'll explore 3 key benefits of letting go: mental freedom, self-discovery, and an improved quality of life. One of the most immediate and transformative benefits of stopping the act of forcing life is the mental freedom it brings. When you're constantly trying to control every detail, whether it's perfecting a work project, maintaining a flawless image, or ensuring every decision leads to a specific outcome, you create a mental prison of your own making. This prison is built from self-imposed pressures, the need to be perfect, the fear of making mistakes, the anxiety of not measuring up. These pressures pile up, cluttering your mind with worry, self-doubt, and stress. The result is a mental state that feels heavy, chaotic, and exhausting. Letting go of forcing life is like unlocking the door to that prison. Suddenly, you're free from the need to micromanage every moment. You no longer feel compelled to say yes to every opportunity out of fear of missing out, or to work yourself to the bone to prove your worth. This liberation allows your mind to breathe. You start to notice a lightness, a sense of calm that comes from releasing the need to control outcomes. Instead of obsessing over what might go wrong, you begin to trust that things will work out as they're meant to, even if the path looks different from what you imagined. This mental freedom also rekindles your ability to find joy in everyday moments. When you're not consumed by the pressure to achieve or perform, you have the space to notice the small, beautiful things in life. A warm cup of coffee on a quiet morning, a heartfelt conversation with a friend, or the way the sunlight filters through the trees. These moments, often overlooked in the hustle of forcing life, become sources of deep contentment. Practicing mindfulness becomes easier because you're no longer distracted by the constant mental chatter of what's next or am I doing enough. Instead, you're present, fully engaged in the here and now. For example, imagine you've been working late every night to meet a deadline driven by the fear that anything less than perfection will disappoint your boss or colleagues. The stress builds, and you barely have time to eat, sleep, or relax. Now picture what happens when you let go of that need to be flawless. You still work hard, but you set realistic boundaries. Maybe you leave the office on time, one evening, to enjoy a walk or spend time with loved ones. The project might not be perfect, but it's good enough, and you realize that good enough is often more than sufficient. Your mind feels lighter, your stress levels drop, and you rediscover the joy of balance. This is the power of mental freedom. Forcing life often means living according to someone else's script, whether it's society's expectations, your family's hopes, or the standards you've internalized from years of comparison. When you're so focused on meeting these external benchmarks, you lose touch with who you are and what you truly want. Letting go of this need to force outcomes creates a precious opportunity, the chance to rediscover yourself. Self-discovery is about peeling back the layers of who you've been told to be and uncovering who you are at your core. When you stop forcing life, you create space to ask the big questions. What brings me joy? What are my true passions? What kind of life do I want to live, not just for others, but for myself? These questions can feel daunting at first, especially if you've spent years prioritizing external validation over internal fulfillment. But they're also incredibly liberating. They invite you to explore your desires, values, and dreams without the pressure of needing to get it right. This process of self-discovery builds authentic confidence and self-worth. When you force life, your sense of value often depends on external achievements. Whether it's a promotion, a certain number of likes on social media, or praise from others. But when you let go, you begin to value yourself for who you are, not what you do. This shift is transformative. You start to see your worth as inherent, not something you need to earn through relentless effort or perfection. For instance, you might realize that you've been pursuing a career in finance because it's prestigious even though your heart lies in creative writing. Letting go of the need to force yourself down that path allows you to explore writing even if it's just a hobby at first. This alignment with your true self fosters a deep, unshakable confidence. Self-discovery also helps you reconnect with your purpose. When you're not chasing someone else's definition of success, you can define what success means to you. Maybe it's not about climbing the corporate ladder, but about creating a life filled with meaningful relationships, creativity, or service to others. This clarity brings a sense of direction and fulfillment that no external achievement can match. You begin to live in alignment with your values, and every step you take feels more authentic, more you. The combined effect of mental freedom and self-discovery is a dramatic improvement in your overall quality of life. When you stop forcing life, you reduce the chronic stress that comes from trying to control everything. This has tangible benefits for both your mental and physical well-being. Mentally, you're less likely to feel overwhelmed, anxious, or burned out. You sleep better, think more clearly, and approach challenges with a calmer, more balanced perspective. Physically, lower stress levels can lead to better health outcomes, less tension in your body, fewer stress-related ailments, and more energy to enjoy life. This improved well-being allows you to fully embrace the present moment. Forcing life often keeps us stuck in a cycle of looking backward with regret or forward with worry. But when you let go, you learn to appreciate what's right in front of you. The simple pleasures, a laugh shared with a friend, a quiet evening at home, a walk in nature, become sources of profound joy. You start to see beauty in the ordinary, and life feels richer, more vibrant. Your relationships also benefit. When you stop forcing life, you stop trying to control how others perceive you or how they behave. This authenticity attracts people who resonate with the real you, not the version you've been trying to project. You build connections based on mutual respect and understanding rather than obligation or pretense. For example, instead of staying in a draining friendship out of guilt, you might set boundaries and invest in relationships that uplift you. These authentic connections create a sense of belonging and fulfillment that forcing life can never achieve. Moreover, letting go opens the door to a more fulfilling life overall. When you're not rigidly attached to a specific outcome, you're free to explore new possibilities. You might discover a hobby that brings you joy, take a risk on a new career path, or simply enjoy the freedom of not knowing what's next. This openness transforms life into an adventure full of potential and excitement. You start to trust that the universe has a way of working things out, and that trust brings a deep sense of peace. The benefits of letting go of forcing life: mental freedom, self-discovery, and improved quality of life are interconnected, each building on the others to create a more authentic, fulfilling existence. Mental freedom clears the clutter from your mind, giving you the space to explore who you are and what you want. Self-discovery aligns your life with your true values, fostering confidence and purpose. And together, these changes enhance your well-being, relationships, and appreciation for the present moment. Letting go doesn't mean giving up on your dreams or responsibilities. It means pursuing them in a way that feels natural and true to you. It's about trusting yourself, embracing imperfection, and allowing life to unfold without the need to control every step. As you move forward, you'll find that this shift not only changes how you feel, but also how you experience the world. Life becomes less about striving and more about living fully, authentically, and joyfully. In the next parts of this series, we'll explore how to recognize when you're forcing life, practical steps to stop, and how to maintain a life of flow and ease. For now, consider this. What would it feel like to let go of just one thing you've been forcing? What might open up in your life if you gave yourself permission to simply be? Forcing life is like trying to push a boulder uphill. It's exhausting, frustrating, and often futile. Yet many of us fall into this pattern without even realizing it, driven by a deep-seated need to control outcomes, meet expectations, or prove our worth. Recognizing when you're forcing life is the first step toward breaking free from this cycle and embracing a more authentic, fulfilling way of living. The signs are often subtle, woven into our emotions, behaviors, and relationships. But once you learn to spot them, they become impossible to ignore. In this part, we'll explore the emotional, behavioral, and relational indicators that you're forcing life, helping you identify where you might be pushing too hard and how to begin letting go. Your emotions are like a compass, guiding you toward what feels right and alerting you when something's off. When you're forcing life, your emotional state often serves as the first warning sign. One of the most common indicators is a persistent sense of exhaustion, not just physical tiredness, but a deep, soul-level fatigue that no amount of sleep seems to fix. This exhaustion comes from constantly pushing yourself to meet unrealistic standards, whether it's striving for perfection at work, maintaining a flawless image, or keeping up with societal expectations. You might find yourself waking up feeling drained even after a full night's rest because your mind is weighed down by the pressure to perform. Anxiety is another hallmark of forcing life. If you're constantly worrying about the future, whether it's how a project will turn out, what others think of you, or whether you're successful enough, you're likely caught in the trap of trying to control the uncontrollable. This anxiety can manifest as a racing mind difficulty relaxing, or a nagging sense that something bad will happen if you don't keep pushing. For example, you might obsess over a single email, rewriting it 10 times to ensure it's perfect, or feel a knot in your stomach when you think about an upcoming presentation. These feelings aren't just stress, they're signs that you're forcing life to fit a mold that doesn't feel natural. A lack of motivation, even in the face of achievements, is another emotional red flag. You might accomplish something significant like landing a promotion or hitting a personal milestone, only to feel empty or unfulfilled. This happens because forcing life often means chasing goals that don't align with your true desires. You might be pursuing a career or lifestyle that looks good on paper but doesn't light you up inside. Over time, this disconnect can lead to a sense of apathy or even resentment toward the very things you've worked so hard for. Constant self-comparison is another emotional sign. In today's world, it's easy to fall into the trap of measuring yourself against others, especially with social media showcasing everyone's highlight reels. If you find yourself scrolling through Instagram or LinkedIn, feeling inferior because your life doesn't look as glamorous, successful, or together as someone else's, you're likely forcing life. This comparison fuels a cycle of inadequacy, pushing you to work harder, achieve more, or present a perfect image to prove you're enough. But no matter how much you achieve, the feeling of not enough persists, because forcing life is about external validation, not internal fulfillment. Finally, a sense of disconnection from joy is a powerful indicator. When was the last time you felt truly happy, not because of an accomplishment, but just because? If you struggle to remember, it's a sign you're forcing life. Joy doesn't thrive under pressure. It needs space to breathe. When you're constantly pushing, planning, and controlling, you leave little room for spontaneous moments of happiness like laughing with friends, enjoying a quiet evening, or losing yourself in a hobby. If life feels like a checklist rather than an experience, it's time to take a closer look. Your behaviors, the actions you take day in and day out, can also reveal when you're forcing life. One of the most obvious signs is overworking without passion or purpose. You might find yourself putting in long hours, not because you love what you're doing, but because you feel you have to. Maybe you're chasing a promotion to prove your worth, or staying late at the office to avoid criticism. This kind of overwork isn't driven by joy or fulfillment. It's driven by fear, obligation, or the need for external validation. Over time, it leads to burnout, where even the things you once enjoyed feel like chores. Another behavioral sign is trying to control things beyond your influence. Life is unpredictable, and no amount of effort can dictate every outcome. Yet when you're forcing life, you might obsess over things like how others perceive you, whether a project will succeed, or how a conversation will unfold. For instance, you might spend hours rehearsing a difficult conversation with a colleague, trying to anticipate every possible response, only to feel frustrated when it doesn't go as planned. This need to control the uncontrollable is a clear sign you're pushing against the natural flow of life. Neglecting personal needs is another telltale behavior. When you're forcing life, you often prioritize external goals over your well-being. You might skip meals, sacrifice sleep, or forego exercise to squeeze in more work. You might cancel plans with friends or family to meet a deadline, or ignore your emotional needs because you're too busy chasing the next milestone. This neglect sends a message that your worth lies in what you achieve, not in who you are. Over time, it erodes your health, happiness, and sense of self. Procrastination can also be a surprising sign of forcing life. While it might seem counterintuitive, procrastination often stems from the pressure to get things just right. If you're avoiding a task because you're afraid it won't be perfect, or because the stakes feel too high, you're likely forcing life. This avoidance isn't laziness, it's a form of resistance to the pressure you've placed on yourself. Similarly, perfectionism in your actions, rewriting an email a dozen times, tweaking a presentation endlessly, or obsessing over minor details is a behavior that screams forcing life. Forcing life doesn't just affect you individually, it spills over into your relationships, shaping how you connect with others. One of the clearest signs is feeling trapped in unhealthy or unfulfilling relationships. Maybe you're staying in a friendship, romantic partnership, or professional dynamic that no longer serves you simply because you fear letting go. You might worry about hurting the other person, being seen as a failure, or facing the uncertainty of change. This reluctance to walk away, even when a relationship feels draining or toxic, is a sign you're forcing life to fit a narrative that no longer works. Another relational sign is prioritizing others' needs over your own. When you're forcing life, you might go out of your way to please others, even at the expense of your own happiness or well-being. For example, you might agree to take on extra responsibilities at work to impress your boss, even though you're already overwhelmed. Or you might suppress your true feelings in a relationship to avoid conflict, saying yes when you want to say no. This people-pleasing behavior stems from a fear of rejection or judgment, and it keeps you stuck in a cycle of forcing life to meet others' expectations. Struggling to set boundaries is closely related. If you find it hard to say no or to express your needs clearly, you're likely forcing yourself to maintain relationships that don't feel authentic. Boundaries are essential for healthy connections. They allow you to honor your own needs while respecting others. But when you're forcing life, you might avoid setting boundaries because you're afraid of disappointing someone or losing their approval. This can lead to resentment, burnout, and a sense of losing yourself in the relationship. Finally, a lack of authenticity in your interactions is a key indicator. When you're forcing life, you might hide your true emotions or present a polished version of yourself to gain acceptance. You might laugh at a joke you don't find funny, agree with opinions you don't share, or downplay your struggles to seem okay. This inauthenticity creates distance in relationships as you're not showing up as your true self. Over time, it can leave you feeling isolated even when surrounded by people. Recognizing these signs, emotional, behavioral, and relational, is a powerful act of self-awareness. It's like shining a light on the patterns that have been holding you back, giving you the clarity to make a change. If you're feeling exhausted, anxious, or disconnected, if you're overworking or neglecting your needs, or if you're stuck in unfulfilling relationships, these are all signals that you're forcing life. The good news: once you see these signs, you can begin to let go. Start by pausing and reflecting. Ask yourself, where am I pushing too hard? What am I trying to control that's beyond my reach? Am I living for myself or for someone else's approval? These questions can help you pinpoint where you're forcing life and open the door to a more natural, authentic way of being. In the next parts of this series, we'll explore practical steps to stop forcing life and the transformative changes that come when you live in alignment with your true self. For now, take a moment to notice the signs in your own life. Acknowledging them is the first step toward freedom. Forcing life is like trying to swim against a powerful current. It leaves you exhausted, frustrated, and often further from your destination. The good news is that you don't have to keep fighting the flow. By taking intentional steps to let go of control and embrace a more natural way of living, you can rediscover joy, authenticity, and ease. Stopping the habit of forcing life doesn't mean giving up on your goals or responsibilities. It means pursuing them in a way that feels true to who you are. In this part, we'll explore 3 practical steps to stop forcing life and start living naturally, embracing imperfection, listening to yourself, and setting healthy boundaries. These steps are simple but transformative, offering a path to a lighter, more fulfilling life. One of the biggest reasons we force life is the belief that we must be perfect, or at least appear that way. We chase flawless work, impeccable appearances, and picture-perfect lives driven by the fear that anything less will lead to failure or judgment. But perfection is an illusion, a standard that's not only unattainable, but also unnecessary. The first step to stop forcing life is to embrace imperfection, recognizing that mistakes, flaws, and setbacks are not just inevitable, but essential to growth. Embracing imperfection starts with a mindset shift. Instead of seeing mistakes as failures, reframe them as opportunities to learn. Imagine you're working on a presentation and spend hours tweaking every slide to make it perfect. Despite your efforts, a colleague points out a minor error. If you're forcing life, that mistake might feel like a catastrophe, proof that you're not good enough. But when you embrace imperfection, you see it differently. The error is a chance to improve, and the presentation is still valuable despite its flaws. This perspective reduces the pressure to get everything right and allows you to approach challenges with curiosity rather than fear. Self-compassion is a key part of embracing imperfection. Treat yourself with the same kindness you'd offer a friend who's struggling. If you miss a deadline or stumble during a conversation, instead of berating yourself, acknowledge that you're human and doing your best. Research shows that self-compassion boosts resilience, helping you bounce back from setbacks without spiraling into self-criticism. Try this simple practice the next time you make a mistake. Pause and say to yourself, it's okay to mess up. I'm learning, and that's enough. This small act of kindness can shift your mindset from forcing perfection to accepting progress. Embracing imperfection also means letting go of the need to control how others perceive you. You might worry that a less than perfect performance will lead to judgment. But the truth is, most people are too focused on their own lives to scrutinize yours. And those who do judge you, their opinions don't define your worth. By accepting your flaws, you free yourself from the exhausting cycle of seeking external validation. You start to live for yourself, not for an imagined audience. This step isn't about lowering your standards or settling for mediocrity. It's about recognizing that good enough is often more than sufficient. A project that's 80% perfect but completed with joy and balance is far more valuable than one that's 100% perfect but leaves you burned out. Embracing imperfection allows you to take risks, try new things and grow without the paralyzing fear of failure. It's the foundation for living naturally because it gives you permission to be human. Forcing life often means following someone else's script, whether it's society's expectations, your family's hopes, or the standards you've internalized from years of comparison. This disconnect from your true self can leave you feeling lost, unfulfilled, or stuck. The second step to stop forcing life is to listen to yourself, creating space to understand your desires, values, and needs. This act of self-reflection is like tuning into a quiet inner voice that knows what's right for you. even when the world is loud with demands. Start by carving out time for self-reflection. In our busy lives, it's easy to rush from one task to the next without pausing to check in with ourselves. But even a few minutes of quiet can make a difference. Try setting aside 10 minutes each day to sit in silence away from distractions like your phone or computer. Ask yourself open-ended questions. What do I really want? What makes me feel alive? What's draining my energy? These questions don't need immediate answers. They're designed to spark curiosity and help you reconnect with your inner compass. Journaling is a powerful tool for listening to yourself. Writing down your thoughts can uncover patterns and desires you might not notice otherwise. For example, you might journal about a decision you're struggling with, like whether to stay in a job that no longer excites you. As you write, you might realize that what you value most is creativity or flexibility, not the stability the job provides. This clarity can guide you toward choices that feel more authentic. If journaling feels daunting, start small. Write down one sentence each day about how you feel or what you want. Over time, these snippets can reveal profound insights. Meditation is another way to listen to yourself. You don't need to be an expert or spend hours cross-legged on a cushion. A simple 5-minute practice of focusing on your breath can quiet the noise of external expectations and help you tune into your inner voice. Apps like Headspace or Calm can guide you if you're new to meditation, but even sitting quietly and noticing your thoughts can be enough. The goal isn't to silence your mind, but to observe it, giving space to the thoughts and feelings that matter most. Trusting your intuition is a critical part of this step. Intuition is that gut feeling, that quiet nudge that tells you when something feels right or wrong. When you're forcing life, you often ignore this inner guidance, prioritizing logic or external advice instead. But your intuition is a powerful ally. For instance, if you're considering a new career path but feel a sense of dread despite its apparent logic, that's your intuition signaling a mismatch. Learning to trust these feelings takes practice, especially if you're used to overthinking every decision. Start by acting on small intuitive nudges, like choosing a weekend activity that excites you, and notice how it feels to follow your inner voice. Listening to yourself isn't a one-time event, it's an ongoing practice. The more you make space for reflection, the clearer your desires and values become. This clarity helps you make decisions that align with who you are, not who you think you're supposed to be. It's a powerful antidote to forcing life because it shifts your focus from external expectations to internal truth. Forcing life often involves overextending yourself, saying yes to commitments that don't serve you, prioritizing others' needs over your own, or taking on more than you can handle. The third step to stop forcing life is to set healthy boundaries, which means defining what you're willing to accept and communicate those limits clearly. Boundaries aren't about shutting people out. They're about protecting your energy and well-being so you can show up as your best self. Learning to say no is a cornerstone of healthy boundaries. It's a simple word, but for many, it's incredibly hard to say. You might worry that saying no will disappoint others, damage relationships, or make you seem selfish. But saying yes to everything, whether it's an extra work project, a social event, or a favor, can leave you drained and resentful. Practice saying no in low-stakes situations first. For example, if a colleague asks you to take on a task that doesn't align with your priorities, you might say, "I appreciate the opportunity, but I'm at capacity right now." This polite but firm response sets a boundary without burning bridges. Prioritizing your well-being is another key aspect of setting boundaries. This means making time for rest, exercise, hobbies, and relationships that nourish you. If you're constantly sacrificing these things to meet external demands, you're forcing life at the expense of your health. Create non-negotiable time for yourself, whether it's a daily walk, a weekly yoga class, or an evening with a good book. Treat these moments as sacred, just as important as any work deadline or social obligation. When you prioritize your well-being, you send a message to yourself and others that your needs matter. In relationships, setting boundaries means communicating your needs clearly and respectfully. For example, if a friend constantly vents to you without asking how you're doing, you might say, "I value our conversations, but I also need space to share what's going on with me." This opens the door to a more balanced, authentic connection. If someone reacts poorly to your boundaries, that's a sign of their own discomfort, not a reflection of your worth. Healthy relationships thrive on mutual respect, and boundaries are a way to ensure that respect is present. Setting boundaries also means letting go of the need to control others' reactions. You can't force people to agree with your choices or approve of your limits, and trying to do so only pulls you back into the cycle of forcing life. Instead, focus on what you can control: your actions, your responses, and the energy you bring to each moment. Over time, you'll find that setting boundaries not only protects your well-being, but also attracts people who respect and value the real you. Embracing imperfection, listening to yourself, and setting healthy boundaries are powerful steps to stop forcing life. They work together to create a life that feels lighter, more authentic, and more aligned with your true self. Embracing imperfections frees you from the pressure to be flawless, allowing you to take risks and grow. Listening to yourself helps you make choices that reflect your values, not someone else's expectations. And setting boundaries ensures you have the energy and space to live in a way that feels sustainable and fulfilling. These steps require practice and patience. You might stumble as you learn to say no or struggle to trust your intuition at first. That's okay. Change is a process, not a destination. Start small, celebrate your progress, and trust that each step brings you closer to a life of ease and authenticity. In the next parts of this series, we'll explore the transformative changes that come when you live naturally and how to sustain this way of being. For now, take one small action. Maybe it's forgiving yourself for a recent mistake, journaling about what you want, or saying no to something that doesn't feel right. Each choice to stop forcing life is a step toward freedom. When you stop forcing life and begin to live naturally, the world around you transforms in ways you might never have imagined. The constant struggle to control outcomes, meet expectations, or fit into a rigid mold gives way to a sense of ease, openness, and authenticity. Living naturally doesn't mean abandoning ambition or drifting aimlessly. It means trusting the flow of life, embracing your true self, and allowing things to unfold without resistance. The changes that come from this shift are profound, touching your emotional well-being, your opportunities, and your relationships. In this part, we'll explore 3 key transformations that occur when you live naturally in a peace, new opportunities, and more meaningful relationships. These changes are not just outcomes, they're invitations to a richer, more fulfilling life. One of the most immediate and powerful changes when you stop forcing life is the emergence of inner peace. Forcing life is like carrying a heavy backpack filled with worries, expectations, and self-imposed pressures. Every step feels exhausting because you're constantly fighting to control the uncontrollable. But when you let go, you set that backpack down and the relief is palpable. Inner peace isn't about achieving a perfect life or eliminating all challenges. It's about finding calm and contentment in the midst of life's imperfections and uncertainties. This sense of peace comes from accepting that you don't need to have all the answers or control every outcome. Instead of worrying about what might happen tomorrow or dwelling on what went wrong. Yesterday, you learned to rest in the present moment. For example, imagine you've been stressing about a work project, obsessing over every detail to ensure it's flawless. When you stop forcing life, you might decide to do your best and let go of the need for perfection. The project may not be perfect, but you feel calm, knowing you've done what you can. This acceptance reduces the mental chatter that fuels anxiety, allowing your mind to settle into a state of quiet confidence. Inner peace also manifests as reduced stress and anxiety. When you're forcing life, your body and mind are often in a state of high alert, flooded with stress hormones like cortisol. This can lead to restlessness, irritability, or even physical symptoms like headaches or insomnia. By contrast, living naturally lowers your stress levels because you're no longer fighting against the current. You might still face challenges, a difficult conversation, a tight deadline, or an unexpected setback, but you approach them with a sense of calm, knowing that you don't need to force a specific outcome. This shift can improve your mental health, helping you feel more grounded and resilient. Cultivating a deeper connection to the present moment is another facet of inner peace. Forcing life often keeps you stuck in a cycle of looking backward with regret or forward with worry. But when you live naturally, you start to notice the beauty in the here and now. Simple moments, a warm breeze on a summer evening, a heartfelt laugh with a loved one, or the satisfaction of a task well done, become sources of profound contentment. Practices like mindfulness or gratitude can amplify this connection. For instance, try pausing once a day to notice 5 things you're grateful for, like the smell of fresh coffee or the sound of birds outside. These small acts anchor you in the present, reinforcing the peace that comes from living naturally. Inner peace doesn't mean you'll never feel stressed or upset again. Life will always have its ups and downs. But by letting go of the need to force outcomes, you create a stable inner foundation that helps you navigate challenges with grace. This peace becomes a quiet strength, a reminder that you're enough just as you are without needing to prove yourself to the world. When you stop forcing life, you open the door to new opportunities that you might never have noticed while fixated on a specific path. Forcing life is like walking through a forest with your eyes glued to a map. You're so focused on the planned route that you miss the beauty of the scenery around you. Living naturally, on the other hand, is like putting the map away and exploring the forest with curiosity and openness. You start to see paths you didn't know existed, and those paths often lead to unexpected and delightful destinations. These new opportunities come because you're no longer rigidly attached to a single outcome. When you're forcing life, you might cling to a specific career, relationship, or goal, even when it no longer feels right because you've invested so much in it. But when you let go, you create space for serendipity. For example, imagine you've been working in a high-pressure job that doesn't excite you, but you stay because it's safe. By living naturally, you might take a leap of faith, perhaps enrolling in a photography class or starting a side project that leads to a new career or passion you never expected. These opportunities arise because you're open to them, not because you force them into being. Living naturally also allows you to discover new passions and hobbies. When you're not consumed by the need to achieve or impress, you have time to explore what truly lights you up. Maybe you have always wanted to try painting, learn a new language, or volunteer in your community. These pursuits might not have a clear purpose or measurable outcome, but they bring joy and fulfillment that enrich your life. For instance, a friend of mine started gardening as a way to relax after years of overworking. What began as a casual hobby turned into a deep passion, leading her to connect with a community of gardeners and even start a small business selling plants. This wasn't planned. It happened because she stopped forcing life and followed what felt good. Embracing uncertainty is a key part of this transformation. Forcing life is often about avoiding uncertainty, clinging to the familiar because it feels safe. But uncertainty is where growth happens. When you live naturally, you start to see uncertainty not as a threat, but as a gateway to possibility. You might not know where a new path will lead, but you trust that it will take you somewhere meaningful. This mindset opens you up to experiences you couldn't have planned, from chance encounters to unexpected career shifts. It's like planting a seed. Without knowing exactly what will grow, you nurture it with care and trust that something beautiful will emerge. These new opportunities don't always have to be big or life-changing. Sometimes they're small moments of joy or discovery, a new friendship, a hobby that sparks creativity, or a moment of clarity about what you want. The key is that by living naturally, you're open to the possibilities that life offers, rather than trying to force it to fit a preconceived plan. Forcing life often spills over into your relationships, leading to connections that feel strained, unauthentic, or one-sided. When you stop forcing life, you create space for deeper, more meaningful relationships built on authenticity, mutual respect, and trust. This transformation happens because living naturally allows you to show up as your true self, attracting people who value you for who you are, not who you're trying to be. Authenticity is the foundation of meaningful relationships. When you're forcing life, you might hide your true feelings, put on a facade to please others, or stay in relationships out of obligation rather than genuine connection. But when you live naturally, you let go of the need to perform. You express your thoughts and emotions honestly, even when it feels vulnerable. For example, instead of pretending everything's fine, when a friend asks how you're doing, you might share that you're struggling and need support. This vulnerability invites deeper connection, as it gives others permission to be authentic too. Living naturally also helps you attract people who share your values. When you're forcing life, you might surround yourself with people who suosungroup.com, who reinforce your insecurities or expectations because you're trying to fit in. But when you live authentically, you naturally gravitate toward those who resonate with your true self. These relationships feel effortless because they're based on mutual understanding and respect, not pretense or obligation. For instance, you might find that by being honest about your passions, you connect with people who share those interests, creating bonds that feel genuine and uplifting. Setting boundaries, as discussed in Part 4, also plays a role in fostering meaningful relationships. When you live naturally, you prioritize your needs and communicate them clearly, which leads to healthier dynamics. You're no longer trying to please everyone or force relationships to work. Instead, you invest in connections that feel reciprocal and fulfilling, letting go of those that drain you. This shift creates space for relationships that are truly meaningful. These relationships are also marked by mutual trust. When you're authentic and clear about your boundaries, you build trust with others, and they feel safe being themselves around you. This creates a cycle of openness and support that strengthens your connections. You might notice that conversations become deeper, conflicts become easier to navigate, and moments of joy feel more profound because they're shared with people who truly get you. The ripple effect of living naturally, the changes that come from living naturally, inner peace, new opportunities, and more meaningful relationships create a ripple effect that transforms every aspect of your life. Inner peace gives you the clarity and energy to embrace new possibilities. New opportunities inspire you to explore your passions and take risks, which in turn deepen your sense of purpose. And meaningful relationships provide the support and connection that make life's journey richer. These transformations don't happen overnight, but they build on each other over time. Each step you take toward living naturally strengthens your ability to stay in that flow. You might still face moments of doubt or temptation to force life again. Old habits die hard, but the more you experience these changes, the easier it becomes to trust the process. In the final part of this series, we'll explore how to maintain this natural way of living for the long term. For now, reflect on what living naturally might look like for you. What's one small step you can take today to let go of control and embrace the flow of life? Living without forcing life is a transformative shift that brings inner peace, new opportunities, and meaningful relationships as explored in the previous parts of this series. But maintaining this way of living requires intention and practice, especially in a world that often pulls us back toward control, comparison, and pressure. The beauty of a life without forcing is that it's not about achieving a perfect state, but about cultivating habits that keep you grounded in authenticity and ease. In this final part, we'll explore 3 practical strategies to sustain a life without forcing, practicing gratitude, staying flexible, and seeking support. These steps will help you stay true to yourself, navigate life's ups and downs, and continue to thrive in a natural, fulfilling way. Gratitude is a powerful antidote to the urge to force life. When you're caught in the cycle of control and perfectionism, it's easy to focus on what's missing, whether it's a bigger paycheck, a better relationship, or a more impressive life. This scarcity mindset fuels the need to push harder, achieve more, and force outcomes. Practicing gratitude flips this perspective, helping you see the abundance already present in your life. It's not about ignoring challenges, but about choosing to focus on what's good, even in the smallest moments, to create a foundation of contentment. One of the simplest ways to practice gratitude is through a daily gratitude journal. Each day, take a few minutes to write down 3 things you're thankful for. These don't have to be grand achievements. A warm meal, a kind word from a colleague, or the sound of rain on your window can be enough. For example, you might write, "I'm grateful for the quiet morning I spent reading," or "I'm thankful for my friend's encouraging text." Over time, this practice trains your mind to notice the positive, reducing the urge to chase external validation or force life to meet unrealistic standards. Gratitude also builds resilience. Life will always have its challenges, missed opportunities, difficult conversations, or unexpected setbacks. When you're grounded in gratitude, these moments feel less overwhelming. You might face a tough day at work, but reflecting on what you're thankful for, like supportive co-workers or the chance to learn from a mistake, helps you stay balanced. Research shows that gratitude can improve mental health, reduce stress, and even enhance physical well-being by lowering blood pressure and improving sleep. By focusing on what's good, you create a buffer against the temptation to force life when things get tough. Another way to practice gratitude is through mindful appreciation. Throughout your day, pause to notice moments of beauty or joy. Maybe it's the way the sunlight filters through the trees during your walk, or the laughter of a child playing nearby. These small acts of attention deepen your connection to the present moment, reinforcing the peace that comes from living naturally. You can also express gratitude to others. Write a thank you note. Tell a friend how much they mean to you, or acknowledge a coworker's help. These gestures not only strengthen relationships, but also remind you of the goodness in your life. Gratitude isn't about denying pain or pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing to see the light even in the darkest moments. When you make gratitude a daily habit, you shift your focus from what you lack to what you have, making it easier to let go of control and trust the flow of life. This practice becomes a cornerstone of maintaining a life without forcing, keeping you grounded in contentment no matter what comes your way. Forcing life often stems from a desire for certainty in an uncertain world. We create rigid plans, set strict goals, and cling to specific outcomes because we think they'll keep us safe. But life is inherently unpredictable, and trying to control every detail only leads to frustration. Staying flexible is the second key to maintaining a life without forcing. It's about embracing change, letting go of rigid expectations, and seeing uncertainty as an opportunity for growth rather than a threat. Flexibility starts with accepting that life doesn't always go according to plan. You might have a clear vision of how your career, relationships, or personal goals should unfold, but unexpected twists, a job loss, a breakup, or a sudden opportunity can disrupt that vision. Instead of resisting these changes, practice seeing them as part of the journey. For example, if a project at work doesn't go as planned, rather than stressing about the failure, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How might this open new doors? This mindset transforms setbacks into stepping stones, reducing the need to force outcomes. Adapting to change without resistance is another aspect of flexibility. When you're forcing life, you might fight against unexpected events, trying to bend them to your will. But living naturally means flowing with the current. Imagine you've planned a weekend getaway, but it rains the entire time. Forcing life might look like sulking over the ruined plans or frantically trying to fix the situation. Staying flexible means pivoting. Maybe you explore indoor activities, enjoy a cozy day reading, or have a spontaneous movie marathon. By adapting, you find joy in the moment, rather than clinging to what should have been. Flexibility also involves letting go of rigid plans to allow for spontaneity. When you're overly focused on a specific path, you miss out on the magic of unplanned moments. For instance, you might have a packed schedule, but saying yes to an impromptu coffee with a friend could lead to a meaningful conversation or a new connection. To cultivate this openness, try loosening your grip on your calendar. Leave room for unscheduled time, whether it's an hour to wander, a day to explore, or a moment to simply be. This space allows life to surprise you in beautiful ways. Staying flexible doesn't mean abandoning goals or structure. It's about holding those goals lightly, allowing them to evolve as you grow. You might set out to become a lawyer, but along the way, discover a passion for teaching. Flexibility means being open to that shift, trusting that it's leading you towards something meaningful. This approach requires courage because it means stepping into the unknown. But it's in that uncertainty that life's most rewarding moments often unfold. To practice flexibility, start small. The next time something doesn't go as planned, pause and take a deep breath. Instead of reacting with frustration, ask yourself, how can I work with this? Over time, this practice rewires your brain to see change as an ally rather than an enemy. By staying flexible, you maintain the ease and flow of living naturally, even when life throws curveballs. No one thrives in isolation, and maintaining a life without forcing is easier with the right support system. Seeking support means surrounding yourself with people, resources, and communities that inspire you to live authentically and stay true to your values. These connections remind you that you don't have to navigate life's challenges alone and provide encouragement when the temptation to force life creeps back in. Start by connecting with people who uplift and inspire you. These might be friends who celebrate your authenticity, family members who listen without judgment, or colleagues who share your values. Seek out individuals who live in a way that resonates with you, people who prioritize balance, pursue their passions, or embrace life's unpredictability with grace. For example, if you're trying to let go of perfectionism, spend time with someone who models self-compassion and encourages you to do the same. These relationships create a safe space where you can be yourself without fear of criticism. Building these connections sometimes means re-evaluating your current circle. If you're surrounded by people who reinforce the pressure to perform or compare, it might be time to set boundaries or seek new connections. This doesn't mean cutting people out of your life, but rather prioritizing those who support your journey toward living naturally. You might join a community group, attend a workshop, or connect with like-minded individuals online. These spaces can provide a sense of belonging and remind you that you're not alone in your desire to live authentically. Resources like books, podcasts, and online content can also be powerful sources of support. Look for materials that reinforce the principles of living without forcing. For instance, books like The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown or The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle can offer insights into embracing authenticity and presence. Podcasts like The Happiness Lab or On Being explore themes of gratitude, resilience, and meaningful living. These resources act like guideposts offering wisdom and inspiration when you need a reminder to stay on track. Engaging with a community, whether it's a local book club, a meditation group, or an online forum, can also provide ongoing support. These communities create a space to share experiences, learn from others, and stay accountable to your goals. For example, joining a mindfulness group might introduce you to people who practice living in the moment, reinforcing your commitment to let go of control. Even informal gatherings like a weekly coffee meetup with friends who value authenticity can make a big difference. Seeking support also means being open to professional help when needed. A therapist or coach can offer tools to navigate challenges, especially if you're struggling to break free from old patterns of forcing life. They can help you identify triggers, set boundaries, or explore your values in a safe, non-judgmental space. There's no shame in asking for help. It's a sign of strength and a commitment to living well. Practicing gratitude, staying flexible, and seeking support are interconnected practices that help you maintain a life without forcing. Gratitude keeps you grounded in the present, reminding you of the abundance in your life. Flexibility allows you to navigate change with ease, trusting that life is unfolding as it should. And support provides the encouragement and inspiration to stay true to your path, even when the world pulls you toward control. These practices require consistency, but they don't have to be overwhelming. Start with small, manageable steps. Write down one thing you're grateful for each day. Embrace a minor change in plans with curiosity, or reach out to a friend for a heartfelt conversation. Over time, these habits become second nature, creating a life that feels natural, fulfilling, and aligned with who you are. Maintaining a life without forcing is an ongoing journey, not a destination. There will be moments when you slip back into old habits, when the pressure to perform or control creeps in. That's okay. The goal isn't perfection, but progress. Each time you choose gratitude, flexibility, or support, you strengthen your ability to live naturally. As you move forward, reflect on how far you've come. What's one small practice you can incorporate today to keep living in flow? The answers you find will guide you toward a life of ease, authenticity, and joy. The journey of letting go of forcing life is a transformative path to authenticity and fulfillment. This series explores how the pressure to control outcomes driven by fear, societal expectations, and perfectionism leads to stress, disconnection, and unfulfillment. Part 1 defines forcing life, highlighting its emotional, physical, and relational tolls, while Part 2 reveals the benefits of letting go: mental freedom, self-discovery, and improved well-being. Part 3 helps you recognize the signs of forcing life, such as exhaustion, overworking, or strained relationships. Part 4 offers practical steps, embracing imperfection, listening to yourself, and setting boundaries to live naturally. Part 5 celebrates the changes that follow: inner peace, new opportunities, and deeper connections. Finally, Part 6 provides strategies to sustain this lifestyle through gratitude, flexibility, and supportive communities. By releasing the need to control, you create space for joy, growth, and authenticity, transforming how you experience life. These steps aren't about perfection, but progress, guiding you to live in alignment with your true self. As you reflect on this journey, take one small step today, perhaps a moment of gratitude or a pause to breathe and let life unfold naturally. Here's to finding peace in the flow. Good night, and may you rest deeply, ready to embrace a new day of authentic living.